Welcome to the Explainer. Today we are diving into one single idea from A Course in Miracles that, if you really let it sink in, could change absolutely everything. It's from Lesson 259, and it takes aim at one of the oldest, most foundational ideas in human history, the concept of sin.
So, let me just start with this question. What if sin wasn't some evil act that needs to be punished, but was just a mistake? A simple misperception that needs to be corrected? That's the huge idea we're going to unpack today. And believe me, the answer has the power to change, well, just about everything.
So to really get our heads around this, here's how we'll break it down. First, we'll tackle the radical idea itself. No sin. Then, we'll see how that thinking shifts us from a place of guilt to one of healing. After that, we'll get really practical. How do you actually use this in your day-to-day life? And finally, we'll look at the incredible transformation this one little shift can create.
All right, let's jump right in. In this first part, we're going to see how A Course in Miracles doesn't just argue against sin, it totally redefines the word itself.
Okay, so on the one hand, you've got the traditional idea of sin we all know, right? It's an evil act, it separates you from God, and it leads to guilt and punishment. But the Course comes along and flips that completely on its head. It says sin isn't an act at all. It's just a misperception, an error in how we see things. The real problem isn't what we do, it's our mistaken belief that we are separate to begin with.
So if sin is just a mistake in our thinking, then what's the truth? Well, according to the Course, it's this: innocence. The idea here is that our default setting isn't broken or flawed. At our core, we are pure, whole, and connected. This is who we really are before the whole mistaken idea of sin ever got into our heads.
And that brings us to the core of the mistake itself, the idea of separation. This is what the Course points to as the real root of the problem. It's this illusion that we're all these separate little beings cut off from our source and from each other. That belief, that feeling of being alone and apart, that is what the Course says is the actual cause of all our pain and fear. Okay, so if we start to play with this redefinition, what are the ripple effects? That brings us to our next section, moving from guilt toward healing. I mean, why does it really matter if we call something a sin or a mistake? Well, as we're about to see, it matters a whole lot. This new way of looking at it reveals this kind of chain reaction. It all kicks off with the perception of sin, whether you see it in yourself or someone else. That perception then just hammers home that painful belief that you're separate. And what's the natural result of feeling separate and flawed? Guilt and fear. You can see how it just becomes this vicious, self-perpetuating cycle. This quote from the source really just nails the whole idea. And notice that key word, perception. It's not the act itself that creates the separation. It's our judgment about the act. It's our own mind that puts up the walls and creates that feeling of isolation, not some external cosmic rule.
So if sin is just a mistake, that completely changes the game for forgiveness. In this way of thinking, forgiveness isn't about pardoning someone for something they did wrong. It's actually a tool we use for our own healing. It's simply the mental act of correcting our own perception, of choosing to look past the error and see the innocence that, according to the Course, was always there.
Now, I know this can all sound pretty high level, pretty philosophical, right? So, how do we actually take this idea out of a book and put it into our real lives? Let's get practical.
Here are a few ways you can start to put this into practice. Like in your relationships, you could try to see a conflict not as someone being wrong, but as, maybe both of you are just doing the best you can from where you're at. When you look at your own actions, it's about swapping that heavy guilt for a simple question. Okay, what can I learn here? It's all about training a new mental muscle.
And to help build that new muscle, here are a few really concrete exercises. You could try journaling about something from your past that you feel guilty about, but actively try to reframe it through this new lens of innocence. Or try a visualization where you literally picture replacing a feeling of anger towards someone with compassion. Or, maybe something as simple as a 5-minute review at the end of your day, just noticing your judgments and gently choosing a different thought.
So where does all this lead? I mean, what's the real payoff for doing this kind of inner work? This final section is all about the incredible transformation that this one single shift in perception can bring. Ultimately, it really comes down to a fundamental trade. You're swapping a worldview that's built on sin and all the guilt and fear that comes with it for one that's built on innocence. And the result of that trade? A life with a whole lot more peace and love. It's a pretty powerful exchange when you think about it. And to really help you feel this in your bones, the Course gives us this simple, powerful affirmation. I am innocent, and there is no sin. Now, the point isn't to deny that mistakes happen or that people get hurt. Of course not. The point is to consciously affirm your true, untouchable nature, and to finally set down that heavy, heavy burden of self-judgment.
And that, right there, is the ultimate promise of this whole idea. See, when you let go of the concept of sin, you're not getting rid of accountability. You're just dropping the enormous burden that goes along with it. The potential outcome is a life with way deeper connections, true inner peace, and just the freedom that comes when you finally put down the weight of guilt and judgment.
So we're going to end this explainer with the same powerful question the source material leaves us with. And there's no easy answer, but it's an incredible one to think about. How would your life actually change? Your relationships, how you see yourself, your daily experience, if you truly deeply embrace the idea that there is no sin, only innocence? That's a thought worth exploring. Thanks for watching.